All right, here we go. Okay, it's live now.
All right.
What's up, everyone? I'm Crystal.
I'm Jay.
And we are stronger than yesterday.
All right, so today we're going to start off with a new segment that we are going to be building our brand into. One of the evolutions that you guys are going to start to see is this year we're going to be bringing in a lot of your stories. We want to know what it is to you, what you've gone through, how you've been stronger than yesterday. We've all been through some past. Some of you some incredible things and have some incredible stories to tell and want to tell it. So we are going to be bringing this in. We're going to start telling some stories. We're going to find the people that really connect with what we're doing and what the Stronger Than Yesterday means to them. So with that being said, what we are doing tonight, we are introducing our new partner, or not new, but we've been partnered with him for a while. We're bringing him into the fold in front of you, putting you in front of the audience. And this is Elias Notus. He is our newest badass partner. He's a big, awesome guy. Really, other than that, I'm going to let him talk for a minute, and then we are going to get to our guest of the evening, who is Adora Evans. And Elias is going to take this away as the new segment leader. Thank you, Elias.
All right, what's up? Stronger Than Yesterday. We are excited to be here with you tonight. I am, like Jay said, new partner in Stronger Than Yesterday. Very, very happy to be aligned with this company. They're doing awesome work. And we're changing up the brand. We're bringing a lot more value to you guys because, you know, when we first started talking about Stronger Than Yesterday and about what we could do to partner together, we said, you know, we want to make this bigger. We want to make this a movement, not just a clothing company, not just a brand. It's something that you should be proud to wear the gear, obviously, just like this. But at the same time, we should also be able to provide better value to people's lives. You know, we're bringing in coaching products. We're bringing inspiring interviews with this lovely lady, Adora, and the three of us actually met Adora at the same time just recently, and we're just blown away by her energy, her intelligence, her drive. She's a super charismatic woman, and she's got the most amazing story. And the thing that all of us have to remember is that our past does not define our future, right? And that's why, you know, we could sit here and talk to you about it and say these fancy words, but at the same time, it's much better to introduce you to someone like Adora that has literally overcome stuff that would crush other people, right? So here's this bright, shining example of what it is to define your own future and just decide what that is for yourself, right? Make that choice and make it happen. So without further ado, let's introduce Adora and just talk about her story because she's way more interesting than we are.
What's up, girl?
Hi. We did it. And thank you for that amazing introduction. Oh my gosh, I was smiling inside, outside. Thank you.
Absolutely. So you know, instead of trying to read off a PR script, which we could do because you have amazing bona fides for your career, I just want you to tell our audience about like who you are, you know, what do you do currently, and then we'll backtrack to where you came from.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm the founder of the Rich Queen movement. And that is just my goal is to create the fastest growing network of wild, empowered, divine, feminine, embodied, loved, wealthy, rich women on the planet, whatever rich living means to you. And I'm for the men too, but I think when the women are happy, like we take care of everybody. So, yeah, so that's who I am. I coach, I speak, I write, and yeah, and I wear awesome clothes by Stronger Than Yesterday.
Really?
Thanks. Yeah, you can't see the logo, huh? Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about your story. Like, I know that I kind of have to let you frame this because, you know, the dramatic arch of the story is all about what you want to share with the audience, right? I've heard it all before, and I like, you know, we all got a little bit weepy when we were talking about your story in the workshop together. So let's just talk about, you know, start from the point that you launched off from. Like, what caused you to take the first step on this big journey? Because it started from a hard place.
Yeah. So I had been, I had a wild childhood like many people. I mean, my parents, I love them. They're amazing. I came into the part of the human fabric that I came into, you know, with our legacy. But I had moved a lot in my life. I had been molested by my favorite uncle, and I thought it was like a grown-up relationship. So I was kind of devastated when I realized, like, oh my gosh, not only is this wrong, but I thought that I was grown up. And so I had a lot of shame around that, and, you know, moving all the time. And I'm the eldest of 7 kids. Wow. There became this place of like really not having just that one constant home, one constant friend, the one constant person that I was really connected to. So at 15, I ended up living on my own and with friends, living, you know, different friends, and their moms kind of took me in. I had a spiritual awakening. And then by 17 years old, I was divorced already. And then 17, 18, I found myself in a little boarded up shack that a family that just happened to own the house. They were so nice and let me rent it for like $50 a month, or I could fix something up in the house. So I tried to fix things up. I wasn't very handy, but like there was no sheetrock and it was up on stilts and there were boards on the windows. And I, you know, felt like a sham in my school because I was Bible club president on my way to this big thing. And then I, you know, left this guy. And so even in my small town, I didn't really feel like I belonged because it was kind of like this scandal. You know, I was supposed to say prayer at graduation. I left with some other guy. It was like this big deal. And yeah, so I was living in this boarded up shack in this little town, kind of the scarlet letter, you know, and I was not paying my electricity. And I was working at a jewelry store. And so one day this lady came in and she was showing these before and after photos where she'd lost over 100 pounds. And so she was talking about how, you know, she just loved her body now. And at that time I was always like trying to get my body to do stuff. And health is still important to me, but then it was like, I was obsessive about, you know, that stuff even more. And so anyway, instead of paying for my electricity, I bought a distributor kit and priorities and entrepreneurial heart. But yeah, so I had this cassette tape. Does anyone know what a cassette? If you're too new on this planet, you may not even know what a cassette tape is unless you've.
I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, so I had this Walkman, you know, player with you know, my little headphones, and they had a cassette tape in there, and I put this cassette tape in, and it's Jim Rohn, and he's talking about how we're all in this metaphorical kind of sailboat. I'm paraphrasing right now. You know, my assignment was to have this on lock, but at your workshop. But anyway, yeah, so he was saying you're in this metaphorical sailboat and you're gonna arrive at this, you know, destination. Like you are on your way and you're gonna arrive somewhere. And where you arrive is really based on what your decisions have been in the past, who you've been hanging out with, what kind of family you come from. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking, I mean, I told you, I'd already been divorced. I was already like blew my mission with God, you know, I'm no electricity, you know, I'm overweight, or at least I feel like I am, you know. And then he said, but the good news is you can change that destination. All you have to do is set your sail in this new direction. And I was like, oh my gosh, well, how do I don't know anything about sailboats. But then he said, and the way that you do it is, and I still really don't know much about sailboats except for duck. And I need like Dramamine. Is that the thing? So,
oh yeah.
Yeah. It's too much. So basically, he said the way that you do that is go get mentors, find some mentors. And I thought, oh my gosh, who's going to mentor me? Like someone successful to mentor me. And then he said, if you don't have mentors or you can't find anyone to mentor you, go to the library. The library is full of books where people have taken their entire lives lessons, and they spent the time to give you that wisdom in a book. And it was like, oh my gosh, it gives me chills even thinking about it, because for me, it was like, there is hope. There is hope for me that I can be successful. I can be somebody. And I believed him. And I remember even there was a line that he said, if you don't believe in yourself, it's okay. Believe in my belief in you. And you guys, I held on to that. I was like, I believe, you believe in me. I believe in you. So that's what I'm hanging on to, you know? And I read like 75 books that year. I know, because I was like charting it. I listened to so many audio programs. Tony Robbins was the next one, you know, the personal power. I'll get you. I remember doing jumping jacks with piles of clothes everywhere and still no electricity, and listening to Tony Robbins. You know, he'll get you lit. Even back in the day, he was good at that. And so, you know, I just took it all in, and I couldn't believe how my life was changing. Like, I had a one-time check of $8,753 from Herbalife. And I had never seen a check that big in my entire life, you know, like I couldn't imagine. Yeah. And so it was a really monumental moment. And I just kept taking all that work in. I got married again. Got pregnant again. My beautiful son, Josiah. I wasn't pregnant before. I don't know why I said again. I was on a roll with the again. Yeah, again. They're like, wait, I missed that part of the Me Too, girl. Me Too. I didn't have it. I promise. Yeah, I'm so transparent. I would be out about that if that had already happened. So, yeah. So then, you know, in the middle of that, we were young, beautiful family, beautiful man. But it didn't work. It wasn't working. I didn't have the emotional, it just wasn't working. We were teenagers trying to play house. And so we separated. And after that, I was looking for a way to earn the money to pay for a divorce lawyer. And I was working at Applebee's and teaching jazzercise, and I was wearing the little leotard with the thong bodysuit on the outside. And someone told me, you know, if you could go work at this club in Dallas, and as a waitress serving drinks, you'll make way more money, and the uniform's pretty close to that outfit that you wear in jazzercise. So I was like, well, all right. And it was really close, except for the tights were sheer. And I'm like, you know, started making the tips and driving out to the club. And yeah, and it wasn't long. And I just found myself I didn't find myself, I requested to, instead of being a waitress there, being a dancer. And so, you know, I thought that it would be this kind of temporary thing. But what ended up happening is that even though I was reading all the books and they were working, I was reading like how to sell better. And like, I do all these things like, I'm sorry, I can't go out to dinner with you, but if you meet me at the club, you know, and then I'd be like, sorry, I can't dance for you longer, but my boss is making me go over there. And it was really that I was calling and working the sales game and had like 10, anyway, right. I'm not teaching that course. Okay. So I'm not trying to send anyone into that career. So let me back off of that. But I was reading all of the books and really wanted to do something different. Like a few times I remember going and getting a waitressing job, and, you know, it was like $2.50 an hour or whatever. And we had to clean the floor. And like, I looked down at these ugly black shoes and smelled like food, and all this water and food particles went by my feet. And I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, I cannot do this, you know? And so I quit like same day and went back to dancing. So the hardest part for me was really believing that there was anything that I could do that would actually earn, you know, the levels of income that I wanted to earn. And I knew that I had to believe in myself to get out of there and do that. But but I didn't believe in myself. And I couldn't, you know, I started to develop an allergy to the secondhand smoke, and, you know, my throat would kind of lock up and I'd be like, feel like I had the flu for a week after. But it's still, you know, it wasn't until someone that I trusted, you know, that I met there that worked for the World Bank that I thought was like this awesome mentor. I was moving and he offered, oh, you can go stay at my townhouse. I won't be there. And we had a very like respectful exchange. I mean, as respectful as it's all relative what you think that is, but you know, it's very like platonic kind of, anyway. So yeah, so anyway, I was at his house and he came by and said, hey, you know, help yourself to drinks and I'll be back after dinner to check on you and to just make sure you have the bedding set up and everything. And I was like, okay, great. And I didn't drink. I like really rarely drink there. And so I didn't have any drinks. And I'm sitting down, he comes by, I'm sitting down with him. I'm thinking, oh, wow, I have this mentor. He works for the World Bank. Like, I'm getting out of here. Like, life's about to get really good, you know, like things, I'm still such an optimist, but I did always have that, like, you know, yes, life is going to get better. And so I remember I was sitting up on a couch edge and he was sitting in like a business chair. He had like this desk office thing in his house. And so he was like, so tell me, you know, what is it that you want to do with your life anyway, when you get, you know, and I was like, I want to help people. I want to make a lot of money helping people. And he was like, you can't do that. You cannot do that. You have to go make the money, then you take some of that money and you help people. And so we're going through that when when it starts getting blurry and his face starts looking like a troll. Then I'm like being like in and out of consciousness, kind of being dragged up the stairs with my arm around. Then I like kind of go out of consciousness and then he's pulling my pants off, you know. And yeah, and so then I wake up, you guys, and I'm thinking maybe I let him on, you know, maybe I have a brain tumor. Like what is happening? I really had no idea. And it took me a few days to even like process or think that maybe something. And a guy friend also from the club, an older guy, that I also was not sleeping with or doing any sexual things with. But anyway, he was like, you need to go get a drug test. Like, I think something happened there, or at least and I thought, you know, I'm sure this guy didn't drug me, but I need to know if I have a brain tumor. At least that way I would know if something. So I remember getting the test and calling him and from the payphone, because payphones were a thing, and being like, hey, I just want you to know I got a drug test. And he like, I don't remember what he said, but when I got the test back, they were like, look, this isn't going to stand up in court, but you have traces of rohypnol in your blood, which that's the date rape drug. And so they're like, go to the hospital and get the rape kit test done. So I go to the hospital and and they filed charges and he pled guilty, you know, right away. But so that was my moment that I was like, something has got to change. Like, I am putting myself in not the right positions. I've got to get out of this industry. And I signed up for Landmark Forum. And my only goal was to have the guts and the belief to finally leave this place. And, you know, I started another network marketing company. And I think it was Primerica. I've probably been through 20 in my lifetime, but on and off. But, you know, so then I remember it was right after this and it was a holiday. I think it might've been Thanksgiving or New Year's Eve. And I was alone and I was sitting in my apartment on the couch that guy got for me, by the way, afterwards. I think he felt really guilty and it was pre-test result, you know, talk. And I remember, you know, looking at this Think and Grow Rich book, and Napoleon Hill was saying in chapter 1, if you've read that book, is the law of desire, and write down what it is that you would do if you could do anything. And I wrote down, if I could do anything, it would be so cool to interview successful people like Napoleon Hill is doing. Like, that would be amazing. If I could be paid for it, like, woo, epic, you know? But I mean, I just really was like playing the magic pin game, following the directions, you know? I didn't really have like a clear plan. And so a few days later, I get this call from another mentor that I had watched go from nothing to, and I may have not been platonic with him, but anyway, so I'm hanging out with him. He was way younger and cuter and all that. But anyway, so anyway, I watched him go from zero to like multi-million-dollar company in a year, like an apartment with no furniture. And so he was like, he did not know that I'd written this down. And he calls me and says, hey, there was a job that I had whenever I was younger, and I think that you would be amazing at it. I can put in a word for you, but you're going to have to go through the interview process. And they've hired a third-party person that does all these psychology tests. And so I'm like, I'll do it. What is it? You know? So I go through all this application. I'm burying that I'd ever been a stripper. You know, I'm kind of like, I stayed at home doing stuff with stuff, you know, and, you know, I'm putting all this heavy makeup on, trying to look older and wearing really boxy clothes, trying to like, I was so paranoid that like, it was going to just show that I'd been a dancer or something. I don't know. It was so weird, but, so basically, I got the job, and I wasn't really into sports or anything, but it was as a producer on the Discovery Channel for Pat Summerall Productions. Wow. And so, and so I got to, my job was calling CEOs of 10 million plus companies and getting them to want to be featured on this show. And the sales process was an interview process. I couldn't believe it. I was like, not even done with this freaking book, and I'm interviewing like these CEOs. And then I have up there like the brain of a CEO. I'm reading all these very like analytical, way over my head books, trying to, you know, understand and communicate. And, you know, and it was really such a great job for me that really not only just reinforced my belief in self-development, spiritual law of attraction, something higher is working. Because yes, there was the work that I was doing, but there was a very direct request that I wrote down. And then my heart, my energy, like all the stars align, you know, whatever those are, which I know what they are, but it happened. And it was incredible. And that set me off on this just wild path of getting this nickname, the Celebrity Connector. And people would call me, you know, one of my best friends, Mesa, her husband, Jerry Clark, a good friend of Myron Golden's, was doing the series Standing on the Shoulders of Giants. And he called me and said, hey, you know, if you'll get these guys to say yes to the interviews, I'll pay you XYZ. And it was a really good amount, like, I don't know, $400 per interview or something like that. And so I was calling Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, and I'm like, I can't believe, you know, and I had the skills to get them to say yes. And now I had their cell phones, and many of them were like, anytime I called, because I only called to say, hey, I have this for you, I have that for you, you know, they would take my calls. And it got to the point where they were like, what can I do for you? And I really didn't know. So one of them nicknamed me, Greg Reed nicknamed me the Celebrity Connector, and Dennis Waitley. And like that turned into, getting to work, getting called to help get people to agree to be on The Secret.
That's awesome.
Working with Matt Morris. Yeah, it was so cool. And then working with I got to work in LA with Elaine Hendricks, who was in Parent Trap, the stepmom, and she became my business partner with my friend Zaina. And we were doing these Girls Gone Gorgeous Beauty Inside Out workshops in LA. And then I just happened to be in this designer's place and meet the designer that dressed Prince his entire career, was like raving about her clothes. And I didn't know she was sitting there. So she's like, let me read your astrology, you know? And so I ended up working with her, walking red carpets, working with actual celebrities like, mind blowing. My celebrities were still the authors and speakers, but yeah, and that led to lots of other things like that: designers, red carpets, private jets, getting to be the senior writer for a fashion and art magazine in Egypt, and all that was really, really great. But always, 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 always in my goal books every year, because I kept that up for sure. In fact, I've got my manifesto right here. Every year, it always said, I'm empowering women, I'm helping. Oh wait, I need to show Justin this, because we were talking about that Jamie Eason booty that's in my, like I told you.
It's always episode, by the way, kids.
It's round like I remember, right? Yep.
What did you say?
It's round like I remember.
Not you. What did you say, Chris? I heard that, Justin.
I said that'll be next week's episode. We'll talk about that next.
Yeah, and so it was always there that I wanted to teach, coach, empower women, especially women who had dealt with any kind of sexual, physical kind of things. And that's evolved to like, just, it's so special to me to get to be a part of the industry that was responsible, I feel, for me being able to turn around my entire legacy, being able to, instead of being a statistic like many people that I know and that I certainly could have been, and I'm still part of some of those statistics at certain parts of my life. What became possible through these books, like even today, I was trying to see if I exaggerated when I told you guys, but I still listen to 3 or 4 hours of some kind of development daily. And that's, hasn't stopped since that moment in the shack. And it's because I've gotten so much out of it, and I even remember a time where the biggest one of the hardest things for me to do leaving the country was giving my books away, because I felt like, no, these are my friends. These are my people. These are my, and now I'm not attached to that. I mean, we can get them online, right? We can
right.
But
that's so cool.
Well,
and I think it's great that you're like sharing your story. I know it's not easy for people to like reach deep down and like, grab that part that you kind of want to block. But I think sharing your story is really motivating for other people out there. And this is the reason why we're kind of starting this whole segment, because we want people from Stronger Than Yesterday, our fan base, to actually step forward and share, because you just never know who you can reach. You know what I mean? You never know who can actually connect with. And I think it's important, and I'm really glad that you came on as our first speaker. So.
Aww, thank you. Yeah, and it wasn't always easy. I mean, I buried that dancer thing for so long. But here's what I know. What I know is that everybody has some area of their life that they're ashamed of, embarrassed, think that like it is like the deal breaker, that if people actually knew this about them, and it's terrible, because it is the worst prison and the worst cage, and for me, sometimes I'm more anxious about sharing my story than others, but for me, I want to be the person that is like, look, however you are, whoever you are, like, it's good. We're going to make it, because you can't evolve locked in that. And I'm not saying everybody should just share everything. Like certain things, there were periods of time where these things were shared in a counselor's office, in very safe spaces. So you need to be in a space that you're comfortable sharing in. And then, it happened gradually. I got support and it's not like just coming out and, putting yourself in a situation we saw today, haters are going to hate. Right. And so, but the more that I've owned that, for me, it's a belief that if I own that, then whatever's holding back any other woman or man, I'm leading from the front. Like I'm embracing my humanity. I'm making peace in here. And peace in here means peace in the world, right? Like I'm not defending or hiding or, you know, projecting or getting pissed off because I have all this. And I believe these things also, even if you're the sweetest person and you hold it all in, if you don't learn to love those shadow parts of yourself or those parts that you think are so disgusting and ugly and blah, 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 it'll end up taking on a physical form in your body, like sickness, disease, stress, something, you know?
Well, even beyond that, because I want to talk a little bit about your coaching, because I know that, because, you know, obviously after we initially met, and then when we decided to have you as an interview guest, we of course like stalked you and like looked at all of your stuff, and like it's so impressive to see the work that you're doing and the brand that you have, and like you said, helping people. Like you can make a ton of money if you just genuinely want to help people and do it right. And for me personally, even though our backgrounds are very different, I had a very troubled childhood as well, but in a different sort of way. And I had a lot of stuff to overcome along the way, and that's fine. And I own that. There are parts of my story I could be a lot more comfortable talking about, and maybe that'll happen someday down the road. I'm not sure. But I do know this much. If I was going to hire a coach, I want to hire someone who has had to fight at some point, right? Because if you haven't had your mettle tested, if you haven't had to overcome something significant in your life, how are you going to be like that surrogate backbone and guide and mentor to someone else who needs to walk that path now, right? You need to be stronger than they are. And that's what I think is so impressive about you, because so many of the other people would have just collapsed or gone off on a different path, but accepted a lot less from themselves than they're truly capable of, right? Mm-hmm. So even when you're talking about being back in the shack, right, and you had an electricity bill to pay, and you chose to get a distributor kit, and you said Herbalife was the first one, right?
Yeah.
And so like that says a lot about you. And first of all, you're like exactly like we are, all just like entrepreneurial souls who believe and insist that there is something better for us in the world that we have to have a hand in creating, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously you've had that from a very, very young age, but was there something from childhood that you saw as an example around you, or was that just something you felt from the inside? Because I've seen it happen both ways.
Yeah, you know, for a long time, it was something that I felt I thought was just me. It was just this unusual thing. As I started doing the healing work on my belief systems and my relationship to money, to my story, to people in my life, which is why I'm wearing that t-shirt by you guys, that says the only thing holding you back, right, is the bullshit story that you're telling yourself. I'm paraphrasing again. Yeah, as I started doing some of that work, you know, it was funny because for a long time, my childhood memories were all dark. I didn't have any really positive memories. But when I started doing the work on those things, every kind of work, EFT work, you know, spiritual work, like all the work that you read about and then I remember when good memories started trickling through, like fun times started coming up, you know, and I'm very spiritual. It's part of my, whatever, you know, everybody has their own belief system. And I even believe even if it's just a placebo, for me, it's working, and I work better when I'm believing in this, you know, higher, source that I surrender to, God, divine feminine, divine masculine. And, you know, as I started digging in all that and really looking at my ancestors and thinking like, wow, these people, you know, however messy it was, we made it, and I'm here somehow. And they all fought their own fights through their own stuff. And you know, I spent a lot of years hating and not liking things. And there was this turning point where, you know, it was first started when I interviewed them all to try to get compassion and understanding. And that was years before. And when I would hear their stories, and like my dad, for instance, and I love him and he'll probably see this, but I remember, you know, my dad was so sweet to me. And even right now, if I call my father, he will be like, I'm so proud of you. He'll apologize for something that he didn't do right in life. And he'll be, if I wanted to stay there, that guy would sleep on the floor and give me the bed. Like, it would make him so happy if I just moved there. And he always gave me positive words, like, you can do anything. I believe in you. I love you. Na. And, you know, when I was interviewing him, I learned he grew up in a very opposite way. He was told, you're a piece of shit. You'll never amount to anything. And, you know, there was a lot that, and his family was all spread out. So to him, his major goal for making it better and evolving humanity, which that's our job, to get stronger than yesterday. And you can't take it all on at once, right? You do the best that you can, take one piece on, you can try, but it's hard. You know, was that he wanted to keep his family together and to always just never speak to us like that. And my dad praises me up and down. I'm probably one of the reasons I celebrate people so much is, you know, because my father gave me words as part of my love languages, you know? And so, so that was one of the other, like the interview process was very healing, just trying to understand, like, where did they come from? Did they make it a little better for you than they had it? And sometimes there's more going on chemically or whatever, and they made it worse for you. I don't know. But then the next part was realizing, okay, I'm the face of this legacy now, not, oh, I'm going to disassociate myself, and not that I'm just hanging out in all the same environments. I'm not saying that either, but I started going, we made it, you know, what gifts do I have, you know? And, you know, I have a grandfather who I got to see lots of summers from my mother's side. He was like 6'4". By the time, maybe 6'2", I'm 5'2", right? Now that I've been around 6'9", but he was towering. And, you know, these beautiful blue eyes. And he literally looked like Santa Claus by the time that I knew him. But he had been a military man, and we didn't find out until he passed away that he had every medal except for the Congressional Medal of Honor. And he found Jesus in his adult life, and he would be like, well, shit, honey, the Bible says, you know. And so, you know, when I start, which is why I love cuss words in the middle of prayers and, you know, anything, like I've just got to hit the weird pleasure center, my papa, you know. So, you know, realizing like that is in my DNA, that is me, like that's in my DNA, whether I was exposed to it behaviorally or not, that's in my DNA. And he, after he got out of the military, started this starter and alternator business. My grandmother on my father's side, wild woman, she had breast cancer at one point, and had her breast removed. They had this fake insert in there. I watched that woman take that out and fling it across the room and hit somebody in the head with it. She was a wild woman, but she had this farm, and I know, isn't that awesome? I remember times I'd be like, if I could only have it this much, a smidge of her bravery, that would be so incredible.
Funny.
Yeah, but she was divorced 5 times, had this farm, she had a thrift store, she had like this little flea market shop. So, you know, in hindsight, I'm not the first entrepreneur in my world. And, you know, so it came from somewhere. It wasn't in my immediate family. It wasn't trained in me, but the story that serves me better is it's in my veins. It's in my blood. It's in my DNA. Like, boom, I'm the face. And now look what's up. You know, where are we going now? Yeah. So it's way more powerful for me to have, you know, shifted that.
Yeah. And it's a big truth that I don't think a lot of people embrace, is that you can choose your story.
Mm-hmm.
You choose what you own. You choose what you identify with, right? That's on you to have the strength to pull that off. And sometimes if you don't have the strength yourself at that moment, find a mentor like you who has the strength for them to guide them through the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. And I would say that there are books, there are audios, there are things, but find a mentor like me, find a group, find a tribe of people, because it's one thing to read the books and then go it alone, you know, or take a course and go it alone, watch YouTube videos and connect. But it's another thing to do the work and then share And, you know, you get in these little private moments, like the workshop we were in that you hosted at your house, and Elias, you were one of the leaders, where people were like so nervous. And then at the end, you feel like, I feel amazing. And that wasn't awful at all. And then you have the opportunity to get better. And also to not feel alone in it. And it's like, it's instead of just climbing this hard uphill battle, taking decades sifting through stuff, you've got someone taking you the fastest path in a group setting of people that are all up to something similar.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm grateful that you that even though you know admittedly very little about sailing, I'm glad that you you chose to steer the ship in a different direction and that our paths crossed. I'm very grateful for that. So glad to have you here.
Amazing, Laura, and I'm so happy that you're sharing your story with us and everybody in Stronger Than Yesterday. I think you're so motivating. You're such a powerful woman, and I wish you all the best with everything that you've got going on. I know right now you've got adoracrystal.com, right? So you have this huge masterclass that you are, what is it? Can you explain to our audience exactly?
Yeah. So you can go to adoracrystal.com or the Rich Queen Movement. They both lead to the same place. But there's a free 1-hour class there that is potent, powerful, and does what we were talking about, which is leads you through looking at, okay, what is the legacy that I came in with? So rather than, there's a lot of stuff out there for working through the negative things, and you know, we do some of that, but this one is not that. It's the opposite of that. It is like that, unlocking the codes that are in your DNA so that you can show up as your most powerful self. And I kind of look at it like that simple little book, The Little Engine That Could. Do you remember? Like if you if you show up to life like, oh, my life's so hard, it was so terrible, I'm, you know, like I suck, but I want to go win. Oh man, look at me with all the winners, I suck so bad. You know, it's like not easy to win with that mentality, right? But it changes that game totally, so that you tap into all the gifts that you are, and that you can show up to the game of life like, wow, you know, Wonder Woman, I don't know, whoever your superhero is, knowing that you belong on the field. You're here, you made it, you scored a body, you made it, your ancestors did it, you made it, you belong there. We'll get that one done. And then you get to know, like, what are my superpowers and what can I do in the world, you know?
Right, for sure.
Yeah, so they can get it free. Yes, you just go to that website, get it free. And yeah, and I know it'll be epic and life-changing for you if you do it.
That's awesome. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and you guys, thank you so much for having me here. We all connected immediately. I love you all so much. It's like so great to have you as inner tribe, inner family, you know, circle. And I love the mission of Stronger Than Yesterday. I'm so glad, and you all, their audience, must be celebrating finally seeing their beautiful faces. They've been behind the camera, and I'm so glad that this mission, it really is about just taking baby steps and committing, rather than comparing yourself to other people, rather than, like, you know, that was one thing Jim Rohn said, that it may take you longer to get there than other people, but you will arrive. You will arrive. So just those little tiny baby steps, and you need to celebrate those baby steps, and you need to celebrate it loud. Like, go onto the Stronger Than Yesterday page or group or wherever you can post, or whatever their recommended hashtags and things are, and share, how are you stronger than you were yesterday? Or where do you want to be a little bit stronger? Because the truth is, our stories are our best medicine. You know, your mess is your message, you know, your misery is your ministry. And when you share it, like there are people that exhale with you, even if they never say it. So, you know, I love the mission, and I love what you guys are doing. And I know your audience, that they're a bunch of badass people.
Oh,
Well,
we're badass.
I love what you said about incremental change, and like Jim Rohn is like, you know, one of the OGs of the you know, developmental world and the inspirational world. You know, he was one of Tony Robbins' direct mentors. A lot of people don't know that, who only know Tony Robbins, who's at this point considered like an OG of that world now to the newer generations, right? So again, that's like it's owning that heritage. You found that person that you connected with that allowed you to hear the message. A lot of other people gave that same message, but it was that person that day that gave it to you that you heard it, right?
Yes.
So that concept of incremental change, right? Being stronger than yesterday. The one thing I can promise you is that the brand isn't called Stronger 10 years from now, right? It's stronger than yesterday, because I guarantee you 10 years from right now, if you focus on the incremental change every day, you will be so much fucking better as a person, as an athlete, as a human being. 10 years from right now, if you do the incremental work, incremental change on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. I wish I wasn't sitting with like desk all around, because I want to dance. It's always that's so good. So good.
Right. Well, I think we're pretty much at time. So why don't we let Jay and Chris take us out for the session? But Adora, thank you from my heart for being here and sharing your story. I really do love you, and I'm so glad you're in our lives.
Thank you. Thank you. Love you too.
Thank you so much for being on this. It's been good, really good getting to know you. I like the energy that we get in the room with the group of us is out of this world. So for all of our people out there watching, her people out there watching, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be rolling out a new series. It's going to be something we're going to be doing on a regular basis, bringing people's stories to you on our Facebook Live. This is also going to segue into the fact we are launching a podcast. We've told you this before, but we're going to keep letting you know until we get it up and running. We are going to do interviews style like this, but we're going to get deep into the conversation. So this is where you're going to hear the stories, but we're going to dig into the conversation. We're going to have conversations on all sides, that what we think, how they think, and we're going to pick each other's brains and really get deep into what we think the world needs. It needs a lot of positivity. There's a lot of crazy shit out there, but it doesn't mean that you can't have a good life, have a better life. Each day can be better than it was the day before. So we are bringing that front and center to you. If you love it, awesome. If you don't, okay. Well, guess what? This is us.
Hi, Felicia. No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe. So
Yeah.
this is the movement.
It's the new movement, and I want to thank Adora. I feel like we're sisters now. We've talked, you know, for the last few weeks, and we were on her social media, and now she gets to be on ours. I want to thank Elias for actually like being a part of our team. Like, he is a huge asset, and I know he's going to bring a lot of cool stuff forward. And so we can't wait to roll all this cool new shit out, and super stoked. And I hope you guys continue to watch, and we're super excited. So,
all right, guys.
All right,
we will
thanks.
tune in soon. Have a great night.
Love you.